Did everyone sleep well last night? Oh, that was a good lullaby movie for us to have a gentle sleep, an angelic presence in our mind, comforting us through the nighttime dreams. Yeah, we were just joining today, feeling to join with you in whatever kind of things that you're dealing with that are coming up, and just joining in prayer and trying to meet you with exactly what would be most helpful, or whatever that seems to be. And yeah, it's for mind training. Everything is for mind training, and everything is for tapping into the guidance. And when we join together, that's really been our life over these. Now it feels like decades for me. It's like joining different places around the world and different communities, but just living in prayerful presence with that deep desire to connect and join on everything. So there's not a push away, or not, oh, I can't handle that, but it's more, oh, if it's coming up, then it's important. This is my touchstone on eternity, this moment, and I want to use this moment very prayerfully for connecting and joining. So we are always praying together, joining together. I remember we had a group of us living here over at the monastery here for quite a while, and I remember sometimes we would go into the main house and we would be in there for 7 or 8 hour meetings. And then just when all the expressing had been done for like 8 hours, everyone's like, okay, and going, and then someone would say, I've got something. Oh my God. After 8 hours, you have the nerve to say you've got... But that takes a lot of care and patience, and that's deep communication. And then, it's so much, it goes so deep that even when we would go over to Mallorca, Spain, this island in the Mediterranean, first going over there, let's do a retreat. What do we need? We need a spacious retreat. Okay, let's do a 4-week retreat. And then we did 6-week. That became the norm, 6-week retreats, where people would come from all over the world and go through an initial period of maybe a week and a half of like deconstruction, decompression from their personal lives, and just get into the rhythm. And then after maybe a week and a half, where we started to get into a rhythm and a flow, then I would say, well, okay, we would just rent a villa with like a pool and very nice, warm, beautiful climate and everything, and I would just go down and sip on lemonade and iced tea by the pool all day, have holy encounters with whoever came down to meet me. Then we'd have dinner, and I would pray on a movie. So everyone got about 4.5 weeks of movies like we had last night. And some went into mystical experiences. One woman came one time with a diagnosis of cancer. She left the 6-week retreat in remission, and people would go through such dramatic shifts in perception during those 6 weeks of just relaxing, getting into the rhythm of practicing this every day as a way of living, giving yourself full permission to just give yourself over to the Spirit, to be guided and collaborate and join with your brothers and sisters every day. And then spontaneously, I would just kind of be there, kind of telepathic with everyone, and then eat dinner, and they would sometimes, with 10 minutes to go in the dinner, do you have a movie yet? We have to set the movie. What is the movie? Wait a minute, I'm on dessert. Give me a few more minutes. And then, so it was day by day, a movie dropping in for all of us to be shown by the Spirit through a movie, watching a movie together, just relaxing, having teas, coffees, drinks, watching a movie, stopping it, having sessions. It's like, this is natural. I should be living like this. What have I been missing? Why was I trying the old way? It was very natural to just be together, be loving, be connecting, and then the emotions would come up. I do remember one of the last ones we did. I was going over to fly across from Mallorca to Barcelona to do a gathering over there. So I'd go away for some days, and I said, okay, is everyone willing? We had maybe 20 some people. Is everyone willing to say yes to the Holy Spirit? They were like, yes, yes. And I said, well, if you really want to do that, you have to say something to the Holy Spirit. And they said, what? What do we say to the Holy Spirit? And I said, bring it on. I said, you really want to accelerate things? You put your hand in the air and you say to the Holy Spirit, bring it on. And then I looked around the room, and then one by one, bring it on. And then another one, bring it on. And then the whole group, bring it on. I said, okay, I'm out of here now. I've got to go to Barcelona, but you asked for this. Just remember, just remember that you said this. I think you were there while I left. I was gone. Because it's really just saying, bring it on is just saying, I'm ready to heal. Let the unconscious come up. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm not going to hide anything from you, Holy Spirit. I'm ready. And yeah, that was very miraculous. And I haven't quite seen that many hands fly up with those words. I was like, ooh, that's a good reflection. But that's really what we're talking about. Like I said pretty late in the movie last night, that we're just getting to that point where we don't want to keep anything hidden. We want the darkness to come up, and we want to go through the darkness to the light. And it's great that we're told that that's the way, through the darkness to the light. So we don't have to put roses and cherries and lily petals on things and try to, as they say, put pink paint on everything and just, all is good, all is love, all is one, all is happiness. We don't want to put pink paint on things, but we do want to be authentic, like find our authentic swing, is let up whatever needs to be let up, and then move through those emotions and realize that whatever the emotions are, they're not bad or wrong. They have to be allowed. They have to be accepted. They have to be welcomed into awareness for us to let them go. So for years we've had in our community just two guidelines: no people-pleasing and no private thoughts. And even when I went to China, there was a man I met over there in China, and his name was Nashin, and I found out he was the man that brought A Course in Miracles to China. I'm meeting the guy. And I traveled with him and his partner and for a while, and then at one point he said, those guidelines you have for your community, no people-pleasing and no private thoughts. He said, I think that correlates with the introduction of A Course in Miracles. And I said, the introduction? He said, yeah, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And I said, yeah, you're right. I think our guidelines, no people-pleasing and no private thoughts, are just in alignment. The practical application of nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So that's what Jesus wants us to do. He wants us to go through a mind training experience. He wants us to apply his profound radical teachings. They're radical to the world. I think they're natural, but they're friendly, they're loving, they're helpful, they're practical, but to the world, they're radical. But it's like, well, we don't care if the ego is going to judge them radical. Who cares if the ego thinks they're radical? We're going for it. Miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Miracles are natural. Oh yeah, I can get into the rhythm of that. And even last night we saw little Hardy right away. He was a fan of Juna, I'll go. I know where he is. I'll go. And he, oh, we're all drunk. I've seen drunk people before. That little boy was not thrown off at all. It's not backing down. Like, maybe I should come back. He's very wise. And a little child shall lead them. With all the jokes they had in the smoke-filled room and booze all over, and he's walking in there, in true empathy, shoo, shoo, delivering his message. And then before you know it, the town shows up in the house as a reflection of his willingness and his support for healing and his love, his deep love that he had. So yeah, that's what we talked about today, was just to come and if there's things you want to express, if you're going through experiences. I know when I traveled around to spiritual communities all over the world, and I got invited to ashrams and all kinds of places, just was invited into these kind of deep devotional settings. And it did feel very telepathic, and the telepathy was, I felt like, was a natural sign and symbol of the mind becoming more natural the way it was created. If all minds are joined, and there's only one of us, actually, then it would make sense that we would become more telepathic as we go toward the light. We would just become very telepathic. I was telling Kirsten today, I went to Foundation for A Course in Miracles up in the Catskill Mountains in Roscoe, and I took a trip up there, and in a little car that I got at a garage sale, I was wondering how I'm going to get there, and then Jesus guided me to a yard sale, and all the family, like 5 or 6 of them, were like, "We know you. Where do we know you from? Where do we know him from? He's so familiar. We know this guy." So I go to the yard sale. My car that I'm driving is a Volkswagen Rabbit. It's so rusted that there's a hole on the passenger side. And when my dad would get in the car, he'd go, "Oh, the Flintstones, huh?" I said, "Just keep your feet up." But anyway, that car died at the yard sale on the street. And then I had a great encounter with the whole family. And then the brother, one of the brothers said, "Oh, I'm selling a car in the back garage." I said, "Oh, that's a coincidence. My car just died in front of your house." And he said, "Well, come on back. I think it needs a starter. It's not." I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "How much are you asking for it?" He said, $100. I said, "That's good. That fits my budget." When you live on donations for Jesus, $100 car. I said, that fits my budget. So I said, "Okay, I'll go for it, but it won't start." He said, "No, it needs a starter." It was like a Chevy Chevette. I think it was a little gray Chevy Chevette. And so I told the family, I said, "Okay, I think I need a car." And they said, "Okay, well, we'll help you get rid of your old car, and we'll help you get their son's car fixed." So I got in the little Chevette, and they pushed me down the street to a mechanic who put a new starter in, and then they pushed the little Volkswagen Rabbit and was down there too, and said to the mechanic, "Here's a car. It's yours if you want it." So then I took that and I took it to Roscoe to meet with Ken and Gloria Wapnick and lots of translators of the Course who were there from around the world. And I had very telepathic encounters with them. People would just come out of the woodwork. "Oh, I need to talk to you. My husband passed away and I'm still not sure he's in this good place. Can we go to dinner?" I said, "Sure." So I was doing that, but then also I was so telepathic that I felt like a giant antenna picking up everyone's thoughts. And I thought, "Oh, this is intense." This is like really intense. Like one of those big satellite dishes, like, Jesus, how do you handle this? This is intense. And then I met my friend Dorothy, who was 58 years old and from England. And she was in her telepathic phase the same time I was in my telepathic phase. So we would just be walking along and we both would pick up some thought and we both would like turn as if we're looking like where's it coming from? We turn around and then we just burst into laughter and we go, it's our mind. And so we go on. But it was good. It was Jesus did me a favor by meeting Dorothy, because we were both going through this kind of real sensitive, psychic, telepathic phase. And we both knew that there was a lesson to learn in it, that it wasn't against us, it was actually for us in some helpful way, but we had to learn what that was. And that was very, very helpful. And of course, that's the way, when you're living with people or you live in community or you live in partnerships, then your mind becomes much more sensitized to thoughts. The words always, we're sensitive to words and looks and glances and things like that. But when you get more deeper, you get more into the sensitivity to the thoughts. And then Jesus has an answer for that, even in the Manual for Teachers. How do God's teachers deal with magic thoughts? Because these thoughts of time and space are magic thoughts. They are not the thoughts of God. And we're here to learn to forgive them. But that requires a lot of letting go of the identity, of the self-concept. Because these are not really personal thoughts. We can believe they are. We can believe they're thoughts that other people think, but it's more just us getting in touch with our mind. What are the contents of our consciousness, our shared consciousness, we could say, and then going that next step to be carried to basically the workbook lesson, my mind holds only what I think with God. That's getting in touch with our real thoughts, which are they're beneath in our awareness, even the unconscious magic thoughts or the real thoughts. I am spirit. I am as God created me. The Father and I are one. Those are the kind of thoughts that are actually real thoughts. They're actually created by God, and so they're actually real. So we thought we would, whatever you're going through, just kind of open it up today. See what we could talk about as themes or issues or practical ways to deal with things when you're faced with something new and you're like, what is this? What now? What next? That's what we have to do when we keep building the faith. We just keep the faith of, okay, show me what's next. Yeah. Jeffrey has the purple mic.
Good morning. I know for sure that my perception is problematic, so I know that no one will judge me. I don't even know where my thoughts are going, but it's approximately like this. So bring it on. Bring it on means basically I let my inner darkness to come up in order to be seeable. I see that it is mine. And then, with the help of Holy Spirit, we get rid of that somehow. It's some kind of sorry about this word, maybe exorcism. No, it's kind of
yeah.
It
good.
is.
That's a good one.
Okay, and so I have been in several situations in my life. Then that my grand companion, what I mentioned, by just talking about this, that. Suddenly, she says me, "No, forgive me." So what? And she started to talk, and I see something like this power, dark guys are coming up, taking over my body, and all hate, all rage, all guilt and darkness, and towards her, and I was peaceful within. I was not that, but I was observing how my body really let it out, and it was quite amazing. It was a real kind of exorcism, and it was for half an hour, and then I went away, and I forgave it, In 15 minutes it was done. So my conclusion for myself is that my darkness or my dark guys within me, they are quite smart, and they are hiding somewhere in my concepts, how I see life, how I see other people, how I see this community maybe. And my tolerance, my ego tolerance, personality tolerance, it's so huge. The world cannot get me. I am hiding. Sorry, I don't know who is now talking, yeah? I really am hiding, and I want to be in a situation when they cannot hide anymore. I want to see them, but I don't know how to do it. In the way how you described, it's very nice. You live together, and maybe it's slowly but surely come out. Maybe some other forms, more radical, are needed. I remember in this movie, Francis movie, what was
Take Me Home?
Yeah, kind of people are talking, and then really something might come up. So what I'm saying is that I believe for me to see my darkness and to be able to forgive it and to release it, some special treatment is needed. I'm just saying. I don't know where I'm leading to. Yeah, okay. That's it. If that would be possible, maybe we talk with each other about nice things, and then, okay, here it is. Because I know when it came to me, it was not stoppable. It was like, okay, no, it is too much. It's kind of too much. And then I attack. And then attack comes. Okay, thank you guys for listening.
Like an oil rig in the water, and then the underwater, there's an explosion, and then black. The water, see this black stuff just coming up everywhere.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Belange. There is a special treatment, you could say, that is, Jesus is in charge of the plan of atonement, and he is walking us all through this healing process. And there are many tools, many resources that help us bring the darkness to the light. And some, like you were describing so beautifully, it's like I'm hiding even in my concepts. Every false belief is like a darkness covering over the light. It's like a shadow in the mind covering over the light of truth. So our whole journey is about bringing every false belief to the light, questioning all of the beliefs, all of the concepts we hold about ourselves and the world. They're all like the darkness covering over just the pure light, pure love of who we are. And then while you were describing, sometimes there's a deeper darkness that's down there. There's attack, there's rage, there's anger. And that all has to come up too. And what I've seen in the journey, this bring it on, is like a way of saying, I know you're with me now. I know the help is with me now. So it's not like it's a bring it on, oh my God, I'm just going to get run over by a bus. It's more like bring it on consciously. I don't want to keep going through unconscious darkness and not understanding that this is the healing of my mind. I know now that my life's purpose is the healing of my mind. And so now everything that happens, every relationship can have this purpose. Every day has this purpose. Everything that seems to happen to me, I can trust that there is a purpose of healing underneath it, if that's what I go towards in my mind. So even over this 12 days, there's a development of trust, of opening up, of feeling safe for darkness to come up. But we don't know how that's going to look. It can feel so beautiful sometimes to just have a huge cry. That's darkness coming up, And sometimes, it's just little attack thoughts about small things, judgments about people. But they can feel they're the darkness coming up. So it's just allowing them to come to the light. Sometimes there can be a big outburst of real deep emotion. Yeah, but we are in it together. So there's just a safe container. And so much of the help comes in like the alignment with spirit as well. Like getting into our function, getting into our spirit-given purpose, realigning our mind with the spirit so that we've got like an anchor and a strength that's in there too, that we will keep being brought back to. We're not going to get so lost. That's some of the fear, that I would get so lost if I really let this come up. But it's like, no, the spirit's here too. And so the more we get into our spirit-given function, we're also learning who we truly are, and that helps us allow what we're not to keep coming up, to be released.
Yeah, it's like the context is just Jesus orchestrating time and space for us with whatever's needed. And you were asking about, is there a way? Are there tools? Are there resources? Like Kirsten said, there's many. I know when Sophia first contacted me, you were saying, tried so many things, keep coming back to the Course. And I think I read a post you had done on Instagram was just detailing a lot of the things you've tried. That's been kind of the fun for me, to travel to so many countries, 44 countries, and meet so many people and do thousands of gatherings. Is basically people have not only exposed what they're dealing with, but they've exposed what was helpful. It could have been circular breathing. It can be ecstatic dance. It can be contemplative prayer. It can be movies, music, things that were very helpful for me, getting in touch with those deeper emotions. And all of us recognize that we're listening to a certain piece of music and all of a sudden we start crying. Very good. Jesus is using the music to bring the darkness up, to help us see it and release it. And relationships, of course, that's what you're experiencing with this Russian woman. It's just a given relationship. Does it fit into the boxes of the world? No. It's supposed to be with your family, your wife and child. It's like, but Jesus has a plan, and will send in the things, the people, the resources, the tools, and we just have to have a great allowance to not try to control the plan, but to just trust when something comes to us that we feel deeply is helpful. And then the ego gets said, what do you mean helpful? How is this helpful? This does not fit into the box of who you are. We have to be willing to say, no, there's something that feels really helpful about this, and I need to give myself permission to explore this, to open myself to this, to avail myself of this. And I think that's the most beautiful thing, is just giving ourselves that permission, that allowance to let things come. Because once we say, bring it on, Spirit, then things will start coming at us, sometimes quite rapidly. And it can flush us out of our illusory comfort zone, self-concept. Oh, I don't do these things. No, I don't do that. No, I don't go to these places. No, I don't associate with these people. Jesus is like, really? Really? You said bring it on. I'm here to help you. Really do it. I'm help you. Good morning, Paul. And so I think there's 10 characteristics of a teacher of God that he talks about in the Manual for Teachers. And the first one is trust. We can see why that's the bedrock. That's going to be the key to the other 9. And the last one is open-mindedness, which is basically judge not, which is just basically you get to a point where you're just here to be truly helpful, and you're not going to judge the form or try to direct the curriculum or direct who you're going to meet with or where you're going to go. You just become, like St. Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. You go for that. And that for me was helpful when I was being guided to travel, because I met so many people in so many circumstances. I remember many, many, many years ago, Jesus guided me to go to, I think it was Indianapolis, and some guy there, it was an Italian man who had an Italian restaurant. He said, oh, we meet in my Italian restaurant to talk about spirituality. Come. He was not into A Course in Miracles. He was kind of more, they were all into New Age. It was like a New Age discussion at an Italian restaurant. And so I just walked in there with the prayer to be truly helpful. The tarot cards and every single aspect of the New Age came in there. And it was beautiful because Spirit would go around and address everybody's approach. It had nothing to do with A Course in Miracles, but it was just being truly helpful. Address, 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 address. And one time I was up in Michigan. No, I was over in Pennsylvania, and my friend Lisa, who a lot of you know, Lisa Fair, she was running a nursing staffing company, and finally when she invited me to come to her house, she invited all of her nurses that worked for her to come too. And they weren't really into A Course in Miracles. They were just, she had them watching videos and reading the Course, but kind of like, that's an interesting nursing staffing company to work for. Your downtime is read A Course in Miracles, do the lessons. And she came in and I just said, like I say in this group, okay, anybody have anything they want to share, any issues going on? They didn't know me. They were all lips sealed and around the room. Not a word, not a word. And then she said, then David, you went around the room and you spoke to each nurse individually with what they were going through, trouble with their husbands, trouble with their diet, trouble with their body image, and everything. Not a one spoke up, but you went and just addressed individually every single one of my nurses in the room. And Lisa just watched the whole thing because she listened to that all day. She knew what they were, and she's like, what is going on? How is this man addressing these things? He's never met them. But that was kind of a good use of telepathy. Now the ego can use telepathy too, to, radar, spot your enemies, get them early. It's got all kinds of things that it will try to use the telepathy to protect itself, which is to protect itself from the light of forgiveness. So, really there's so many, all you're doing, you've come all the way from Lithuania. It shows your willingness. You're here and now you're saying, bring it on. You even got the hand up there and you're like saying, this is it. I want to go for this. And just that willingness, just that call for the help, the genuine, sincere call for the help is the prayer of the heart. And definitely God knows the prayer of the heart, even before we speak a word. So then you're more in a place to start to welcoming things, different things. You're more open to accept invitations. Whereas before you might have had strong filters of what I will accept and what I won't accept. Once you say bring it on, you're kind of open to saying, oh, I know you're working with me now, and I'm not going to try to miss opportunities. I want to use every opportunity, to heal, to go for it. So thank you. Thank you for your willingness. It's a good demonstration for everyone.
Thank you for a nice explanation. It made me my heart
Okay.
We're looking for next.
Andrea?
Oh, I was holding it because I was going to go next.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
The purple microphone will make its way.
I
Andrea.
I took my opportunity.
Good.
So I don't even know there's so many things. But I'll just talk about one thing that I don't have an opportunity don't feel an opportunity So when I meditate, when I really relax, my body starts doing weird shit. It just starts jumping, spasming. I've obviously had many interpretations. Your little brain wants to spit out little explanations and, trauma history and all that kind of good stuff. Had a lot, lived in trauma, just immersed in trauma, basically as a child. It's kind of like I've really worked towards really like the stance of, like walking the dog, like this is my little puppy dog. This is my little pet, this body. And, I'm going to do my best, to manage it. Struggling is talking about judgments, all the stuff that everybody seems to struggle with. I struggle with judgments. I want to let them go. I don't take them so seriously. I understand that I've got this momentum, from all these, this earth existence of automatically judging certain things about people and this and that. I don't really believe my own judgments, but it's still there, and it's still this thing, like, I don't know what to do with all the body stuff. I don't know what to do with all the judgments, except say a prayer, except to continue just doing what I'm doing. I just wondered if there was another perspective, if there was, something that you could share with me. I normally I would never say this stuff. This is because my stuff is always trivial. Everybody else's stuff is more important. Everybody else should take the lead. I said, well, fuck it. Let's just do something. Let's just do something different. Let's put ourselves out there because I'm great at faking it. I'm a fucking wonderful actor. If you need an improv person, I'm a wonderful actor. When I first got exposed to theater, I realized, I do this all the time. This is no big. You know what I mean? Because I never grew up knowing, it was crazy where I grew up. And I was crazy. So I just had to fake it. My entire fucking life has been, not entirely. I've done a lot of change. I've worked on this a lot, and I really work to be more authentic, but it's just a thing. My body still bounces. I've been doing this shit. I've been meditating for over 40 years. You know what I mean? I used to bark like a dog, when I meditate. They had to I'd go to the ashram and they'd have, hey, you need to tone it down. We're trying to meditate here. You know what I mean? Because when I meditated, shit just happened. Anyway, I think I'm done now. Thank you for listening.
Oh, beautiful, Paul. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you feel the relaxation and acceptance here to let it up. That's part of the clarity process. Even that skit that they did with Colin Dang from facilitating from China, okay, guys, we've had a lot of crosstalk going on here. Maybe we need to start to come back, gently. That's the way the Spirit is, gently pulling us in. It sees, the ego will just kind of come up and it will gyrate, whatever, like you're saying, and it seems to play out in physical forms for some people, and like you're saying. And little by little, we start to slowly take things less personally and slowly start to be able to watch it a little more without judging it. Right before I went to bed last night, I saw a Facebook clip. It was Anthony Hopkins, the famous actor, and I thought, I'm going to put the volume on. And he was basically saying, he said, yeah, I've learned over the years to really practice not taking anything personally. He was talking about that. He's a spectacular actor, like you were saying, one of the best, but that was what his inner practice was to learn to take it less seriously. And that is, we could say, what seems to be a lifelong process. We have to be gentle with ourselves and easy on ourselves. We can't give in to the harshness. Sometimes it's easier to say other people's issues are more important than mine. And it's great that you're even aware of that, because then you can say, okay, now here in this retreat, I'm giving myself permission to just feel what I'm feeling and let it up and start to look at it again with a little more detachment, again with the Holy Spirit, to not take it so seriously, to just be open that there's this presence of love that no matter what's happening, you don't make a judgment on it. I remember when I would travel sometimes, I started to get so detached from the body that that you just lose your past reference point of what's helpful and not helpful and good and dangerous. I remember one day I was brushing my teeth. And then I rinsed out and spit down, and in the sink below me was all red. It was all blood. And I remember looking at it going, that is so beautiful. I had to stop brushing my teeth and look at that color red. I've never seen such bright, vibrant red. And then I finished brushing my teeth, rinsed my teeth, and went on with my day. Now, from the past reference point, people would say, not good. David, you are an imbecile. You are really an imbecile. But for me, it was part of the overall flow of learning to let all things be exactly as they are, to not look for causation in the world, to not look for any causation in the world. And of course that's different from the medical model, that's different from all of our analytical model, all of our engineering models, all of our business models. All of our conditioning is focused on causes in the world. Good causes, bad causes. More of the good causes, less of the bad causes. You could talk about exercise, you could talk about diet, you could talk about so many things, and yet the practical applications of the teachings are mind training, and you are responsible for your state of mind, and you're responsible for your emotions. You're responsible for your whole perception. How you look at the world is your responsibility. Not what happens, but how you look upon the world is our responsibility. Jesus is saying, you're responsible for how you see this world. Don't try to push it off on anybody else or anything else. You know, your state of mind is under your control. You can control your state of mind by controlling the direction of your thinking. Think with the Holy Spirit, be happy. Think up against the Holy Spirit? No, that's not going to it's not going to get you happiness. So, you know, it's really important. I remember one time at the little peace house I was living in, I had a couple of friends there, and they were like, I had just got there and everything, and they were just watching me, and they watched me go into the fridge and get out a jug of milk, but they had left a jug of like sour, what the world would call sour, stale milk in there. And I was like talking to them, laughing, joking, hey, how you doing? Got some Cheerios out, poured the milk out, ate my cereal, and they were like, what is he doing? Trying to play a prank. And I was like, okay, I got to go off and pray or do something. And one time a friend came down, and she brought I had some cats, and she brought her cats in, and the cats started growling, hissing, and chasing each other all around. And I was eating my breakfast, just watching everything. She says, don't you see what's happening? I said, yeah. The cats were going around. I was like, she says, can't you hear that? I said, yeah, I hear that. And then I said, as I continue to eat my breakfast, is there a problem? Is there a problem? He's like, ah! She's like that. But you have to go more and more into that trust, into that sense of non-judgment, because it's for the whole universe. You're not doing this for a personal gain or a personal thing. You're doing this for the whole universe. So it's not a small thing. Our mind is is vast, it's powerful, and everything we perceive is a reflection of what we believe. And it gives you more of a sense of letting go of the meaning that the ego had written on the world, and letting that kind of fall away, and leaving it as a blank space where the Holy Spirit can show you the world anew, show you the world without judgment, show you the world from the present moment, in a miraculous, spontaneous way. But it's so important that we don't hide, we don't try to play hide and seek anymore, because it doesn't help us to do that. It doesn't help us to judge and compare ourselves too with other people and say, I'm this way, I wish I was more like this, or I have to pretend and keep it together. People would say, keep it together, keep it together. Keep what together? Keep the act together. I don't want to be an actor. I want to be. I don't want to be acting. I looked at the dictionary one time. What does act mean? It said act, to impersonate. Impersonate. Oh, that doesn't sound good. If I'm the Christ, I don't want to be impersonating a person. And then you start to say, oh, that's what he must have meant in the Bible. God is no respecter of persons, because God didn't create them. Oh, yeah, now that makes sense. You start to take things lighter and lighter and lighter. Patience is natural to those who trust. No outcome already seen or yet to come can cause them fear. Wow, that's cool. That's patience. That's why he says infinite patience yields immediate results. First, it's a mind bender. When you first read the line, you're like, what? Infinite patience brings immediate results. Only in the present moment could that be grasped. We're so used to patience being a time concept. And he's saying, oh, be with me. Feel the infinite patience. See that it's not based on outcomes in the world. He went through a crucifixion, hanging on a cross. He went seemingly, at least the form looked that way. It wasn't where his mind was. But he was just in unified perception, so for him, the crucifixion scene was like a walk in the park on a sunny day. It was the same, because he didn't believe in the body and didn't believe in the interpretations of the body. He didn't believe in sacrifice. He didn't believe in betrayal. He didn't believe all the things that had been ascribed to Jesus. It's like Jesus the man, and he tells us twice in the Course, forgive me your illusions. And I was like, forgive you? Why do I have to forgive you, Jesus? He said, forgive the man, forgive the apostles, forgive history. Accept yourself as the Christ, as the living Christ right now. I am what you are. We're the same one. And so is everyone, without exception. So don't try to judge them, because you don't really have the ability to judge them. God didn't create you as a judge. God doesn't even know what judgment is, so don't be so harsh on yourself with some artificial construct, some fictitious thing that you made up. Why would you want to give your mind over to fiction when reality is love? Reality is spirit. Yeah. So thank you, Paul. That's great. You really put it out there. And Andrea's next here with the purple mic.
I just want to release something. I have this belief that I act out all the time, that it's like my personal effort. I have to make so much personal effort. And like embedded in that is this it's just like layers of doubt. Like, I make all this personal effort and I'm like not met by anything. And it's like, and I have this idea that reality is like this like small world that I keep experiencing. Even though I have plenty of experiences that have given me different evidence, but this is like the predominant pattern, like, and I think like one of the beliefs in there is like this like belief in lack, like I'm not going to get what I need, like I'm alone, or I just want to release this, you know? And I remember, I think I'm remembering accurately, but Kirsten, you did like a service like a while ago, like last year or something, where you said, oh, when I realized God is real, like everything changed. So I just want to just lay all this doubt down. And like, it sounds so awesome. You know, it really like the truth just sounds like major. I'm like, I'm into it. And it's like this block in the mind. I don't really understand it. I mean, I just assume it's just, you know, one of the splits, like not really being able to remember. Just misidentifying myself, whatever. So I just want to speak it up because it's just a drag, you know, and I'm like ready for, to not live in this very like small loop that keeps reinforcing itself. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of like with both movies we've seen Saturday night and then last night, it's like the main characters were reflecting having to leave the past behind. And this one thing about A Course in Miracles is Jesus is teaching us, not only does he teach us we have to go through the darkness to the light, but he's telling us that you have to bring the illusions to the truth. You have to bring the darkness to the light in your mind, and that you cannot bring the light into illusions. That's helpful that he's adding that, because many of our philosophies or spiritualities, even long-standing spiritualities that have been around for centuries, you know, about sacred places and sacred vortexes of energy and sacred people, even saints and mystics and everything, would be examples of spiritualizing matter. Trying to put the sacredness and the spirit onto Mother Teresa, onto Gandhi, onto Jesus even. That's a lot of what traditional Christianity is holding that man with long hair and a beard to be God. And it's a body. God didn't even create the body, but God can surely use what the ego made. Jesus is a good example of the ego makes the body, makes time and space, makes the world, even makes words, Aramaic words. And the Holy Spirit says, ooh, I've got the puppet now. And wow, Aramaic, we never heard teachings like that coming through a body. We were all like, whoa. Like Neo in the Matrix, whoa. But you see, that was still, for the process for Jesus, where the experience was taking everything that he believed about the world, about people, time and space, and coming back to Abba, Father, take this from me, take this from me. When he would go off to pray and tell the apostles, pray, keep watch, and then he would go off to pray, he was praying to give over every thought, everything in his mind that wasn't of the Creator. And so that is why when you work with the Course even, it can be a tendency, the ego will try to kind of say, okay, Andrea, you're going to have to do this Course now. And it's going to take great effort. But it's not really Andrea that's taking the Course. This is all mind training. It's about really looking within at every single thought, every single belief, not obsessively, but just prayerfully asking for help. Help me see this differently. Oh, I have these thoughts, I'll give this over to you. It's an emptying out of the mind, like Buddha talked about. It's a sinking into the stillness, like Ramana Maharshi talked about. It is giving up trying to fix the world and fix the personality self, even to fix Andrea. What a job! That's a very hard job. You're like Sisyphus trying to roll the boulder up the hill. Push this boulder up a hill. That Jesus is saying, well, it's because you're still trying to bring the truth into the illusion. And he's saying it won't work. So that's, out of reading the Course and doing it all those years, I thought, wow, that's important. Bring the illusions to the truth. That will work, and trying to bring truth into the illusions will not work. And so this is where we get into a concept that Jesus calls the unhealed healer. Because the unhealed healer, by definition, is still trying to take credit or figure it out from a personality perspective. And it can't be figured out from the personality perspective is the problem. How could the problem figure out the answer? How could the problem accept the solution when the problem was made to forget about the solution, forget about the Holy Spirit, and deny? So that's deep and profound, because that's really what spirituality is about. It's about staying aware as you seem to go through the day of thoughts, of those emotions that are coming up, and then being willing to hand them over in a very prayerful way. Help me with this. I do not know what to make of this. I cannot judge it. I cannot analyze it. I cannot figure it out. And that has been our pathway of trying to judge, figure out, analyze, and even effort, personally effort. And then there's a sense of failure. And then there's a sense of, I didn't do enough, or why am I not seeing any progress for all the personal effort that I'm putting in? It's like spiritually we're trying to use the same plan that some of these athletes use, where they say, no pain, no gain. We're trying to do that spiritually. No pain, no gain. What a strange idea. How would pain be associated with gain? It has to be an upside down, strange idea. But when we work with something like even A Course in Miracles, it can be, there's an inner critic or an inner judge that's saying, wow, this is not producing results. This is not, I want a breakthrough. I need a breakthrough. And it's some kind of deep inner surrender that is necessary to have that breakthrough, it's almost like if you were in your automobile, your car, and you're driving, and then you stop and you're at a stop sign, and then Jesus knocks on the window and says, move over. What? It's my car. Get into the passenger's seat. Well, we still have, there we go. We'll get the purple mic.
Yeah, so far my experience here has been allowing the joy because that is what I've been feeling since being here. And that's more been the struggle for me, of allowing and resting in that without listening to the ego say, don't you dare do that, or else I'm going to throw this at, it's like this fear that it'll be ripped out. Or the thoughts of like, no, you should find something to cry about. And so yesterday there was something on the TV where I think it was Linda getting interviewed, and it was perfect because she was experiencing the same thing. And then someone said to her, no, don't go on the witch hunt, and so that was really helpful. And I think what has helped me is I did the mystical mind training program. Like, I started that 3 years ago. And so that has been a great resource. And I know you guys are changing the format of it or something. But for anyone that is looking for something more to do at home, that's been huge, because every time something comes up, you're dealing with it in that moment, and having the mind training partner to work with every week and go through that has now made it like instant. When something does come up, it's almost automatic now. And so here's been great because I really haven't had any judgments come up or big grievances, and no shame even really. And like, I had a headache and stuff from, before I would have thought, oh, I had a wrong thought, or I'm not doing something. And now it's just like, I don't know, the air's drier here. Like, who cares, whatever. And I'll do whatever I need to do to remedy it in the moment, with no guilt or anything surrounding that. And yeah, it's been really smooth and peaceful and everything that I've needed. Like when I signed up for a private room, and they said, oh, there's no private rooms left. And so I thought, all right, well, whatever, I'll do the bunk room then, even though my preference would be a private room. But I was still willing anyways. And then a private room opened up and I was hoping to be at the campground because I really like it down there. And then that worked out. And Candace is my trailer mate, and she's been like the Holy Spirit comforter symbol here for me, because everything that I've needed, I forgot to bring gloves and my hands are cold. Oh, I have 2 pairs of gloves. Oh, I have a little sinus thing. Oh, I have tiger balm. And our door was squeaking. I have WD-40 in the like literally everything that we. Yes, if anybody needs anything, come to our trailer because we've got it all. And also to Paul, I was sitting next to you in meditation the first day, and I was a little nervous about trying to attempt the whole hour because I'm not huge into, sit still meditation practice. So I thought, I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but okay, I'll try. And sitting next to you made it so interesting because I thought you were doing this special breathing technique that you were really good at or something, and it would make the chair we were sitting on, the bench, like vibrate. Yeah. And so it made it so interesting for me, and it was almost like being on an amusement ride when it would happen. And I thought, oh, this is great. And the hour flew by. It honestly felt like 10 minutes. So it's funny that something you were maybe embarrassed or experiencing shame about or something, to me was a great gift. And so I just think that shows that we really can't judge anything, and it helps me for myself because there's so many things that the ego would tell me, well, you should be this way or you should be that way. And even like during this music session the other day, everyone was up dancing, and I honestly just don't like dance. It's just something that's never really brought me joy, but I've always felt guilt about that, or oh, okay, I'll do it because I feel like everyone else, and I thought, no, I actually am enjoyed just listening to the music and more in the stillness of it. And so I'm just going to let myself do that. not feel wrong about that and not feel anything. And yeah, so for me, it's just been that allowing the joy up and out and not feeling, because also I could feel like that it was arrogant or something to be joyful. Yeah, so yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy.
So I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about maybe the fear that we may have in going to that trust that you just talked about with Andrea, and allowing that, going to trust the Holy Spirit, trusting Jesus. The Wendy character had a very early relationship with Jesus as a child, and not a lot of formal religious training at all, which I felt was, kind of, as I lost it in her teenage years and so on, kind of helped to bring me back, to trusting. And and even with that, early level of trust, I still seem to find myself, having, doubts about that. And, so I can only imagine, the people who have had this deep religious training, from the ego that is really kind of co-opted God and Jesus and the wrath of God and the whole guilt. So I don't know. I don't even know what I'm really trying to say, but maybe you could just talk about that fear of going into that trust.
Yeah, I think I feel like the whole world was set up by the ego just to be a bunch of symbols that would reinforce fear. So, yeah, the past and the future, past regrets, past grievances, future worries, future concerns, distracting the mind away from the present moment. And so it seemed to be, Jesus talks about trust, and he talks about it in the Manual for Teachers as the stages of the development of trust. And it's something that there's going to have to be a progression with. And it seems almost like one of those kind of amusement car rides where you get onto it and the centrifugal force holds your body and then the floor falls out. It's like every stage the floor falls out, you find yourself in another stage, and then the floor falls out. I think I've got it now, I think I've got it, and then the floor falls out. It's always about undoing, letting go, surrendering, releasing. Because even with guidance, you will see that the ego will try to commandeer and take over the guidance as well, in terms of manifesting a better future, making better worldly conditions, making a better personality self, improving the world in some way. That's all the ego hijacking guidance. And guidance is always only for one purpose, and that's to bring us into the holy instant, the present moment. You hear Eckhart Tolle talk about it constantly, being present, being present. He wrote the book, Power of Now. That's what the guidance is for. It's not to make a better personality or a better world. And when it's used for that, it's not the intention, it's not the purpose of it. I had a group of students years ago, and was maybe 5 or 6 of them around, and they were saying, we want to do a workshop, we teach and do a seminar. And I said, well, if you want to do a very lowly, poorly attended seminar, then just do one, entitle it The Impossibility of Manifesting. That won't draw many people. And people are like, what the hell? I'm not going to sign up, pay money for that. But that's actually the realization that Jesus wants us to see that right here, right now is everything. And that we don't have to do something or make something happen for the realization of who we are. He's basically teaching us, God created you perfect, and you're still perfect. You don't have to improve upon perfection, but you do have to accept it. That's right now. That's not a time idea. You know, if we go to the psychology department of bookstores, or we look at the self-improvement and self-help, no, the self that we are doesn't need help. Christ needs no help. Christ is, as God created Christ. And so the development of trust, it will, as you're going through these stages, of course Jesus knows the mind believes in survival. Of course Jesus knows the mind believes in the body. Of course Jesus knows the mind that's asleep believes in the future and has a strong future emphasis. But to have a strong future emphasis, you still have to have a strong past emphasis, because the future is just the projection of the past. Really, a future emphasis, a lot of times people will, I see on Facebook, don't put your focus on the past, put your focus on the future. The only problem is they're the same. That's the problem. The past and the future, I used to call it the past and the future past. Why are you talking about the future past? Those are my goals. Give them up. Give up your goals. Give up your ambitions. In the early years, I told you, for me it was like, we didn't have computers back in the early days with me with the Course, but I had a word processor, and even prior to the Course I had a word processor, and then Jesus promptly told me to delete my resume. Not just the papers, but delete it out of the memory. Delete your resume. I'll take it from here, he said. I'll take it from here. I worked hard on that resume. Delete it. It's a matter of trust, is really putting your full faith in the Spirit for everything, without exception. Like I said, Jesus says, I'll handle everything that does not matter, which Jesus is time and space, if you will give me your willingness, your trust, to guide you and direct you. I can help you, but you must be willing to let me guide you. And the only limits that come on the guidance are those that are placed by the sleeping mind believing in the ego. That's where the limits come in. So how do I feel now? Jesus just does say in the Course, how do I feel is the one right use of judgment. He's just saying, use your feelings like as your barometer to really keep you on track. And be honest with yourself about it. If you don't feel good, then admit it, acknowledge it. And also acknowledge that you need help. If you don't feel good, you need help. Okay, I need help. Show me. For my case, it was he took me to all kinds of music to help me unlock all this unconscious darkness. And then movies. I had all kinds of reactions in movies. Jesus, why did you take me to that scary movie? He said, your mind is scary. The movie's not. That's a horror movie. Your mind is in a horrific state. You need help. You need help to release this. And then the trust, for most people, I'll say, it is a very slow process of developing trust. Not everyone is Eckhart Tolle sitting on a park bench in Great Britain, having this experience, and then he can't function as a human being after the experience. It takes some months and years to integrate enough to begin to seem to function as a human being, because that experience it's very rare. That's very, very rare. For most people, they don't have that kind of experience, that thoroughly kind of getting drenched in the light, that everything shifts. So I would say that's how you give the fear over to Jesus, and then you say, you know the way, you guide me, you direct me. And oftentimes there will be guidances to do things that initially you have some fear with. Initially it seems beyond your ego comfort zone. And I found those little, I call them leaps of trust or leaps of faith, that I had a lot of those in the beginning of the journey. It was like, ooh, butterflies, butterflies. That's a big leap. Then you leap and you go, wonderful. Before the leap, it's butterflies, butterflies, fear, 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 and then you leap. Wow. Glorious. Then, okay, leap again. Already? And you leap. Oh, you build by following the guidance. You get those prompts and nudges, you follow it, and you experience the openness, the confidence, the trust growing stronger and stronger. And also, you do let go of your ambitions. You start to question the most core ego beliefs, like reciprocity. That's built into our economic systems, that's built into our relationships, our institutions, that's built into the whole cosmos, reciprocity. It's not real, but it's the baseline of survival. It's the baseline of how the human survives, is reciprocity. And Jesus is like, give all to all. What? How do I do that? How do I give all to all? Oh, he shows the way. Be generous in your spirit. He's mainly talking about your attitudes. Give all to all. He's not talking about on the level of form, but he's talking about generosity of attitude. Give all to all. And then when you start doing that, you start to have so many miracles that everything seems to just work out. When you're in that prayerful state, it works out and it works out. And again, it works out and it works out. It's like, oh, you lead, I follow, it works out. Good formula. Then the more you get into it, then deeper beliefs, like for example, ownership is he says in the Course, ownership is a dangerous concept if left to the ego. It's just a neutral concept to Jesus. Own, rent, it's the same. It's just ownership, renting, all the same. But ownership is a dangerous concept if left to the ego, because ownership is possession. And love doesn't possess. Love is purely giving, extending, flowing. That's how God created Christ, in pure givingness. So we're going from upside down to right side up. And in that sense, that right there develops a huge amount of trust when you take away the narcissism around ownership. It could be ownership of things, of stuff, of skills, of abilities. I remember one time I was sitting in a muffler shop getting the muffler replaced on the car, and I was sitting there, and the woman, it's either a muffler shop or it was a used tire place, getting used tires. But I was just sitting there. This woman comes and sits down, and I'm just sitting there, happy, 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 and she looks at me and she goes, "Do you know the name of God?" Now, that's the kind of encounters I like, and I'm like, tell me. You see, that's how you address that question. And then she told me with great joy, I don't know, it's Jehovah or whatever it was, with great joy she told me all about God. And I was like, yeah. You see, you don't try to tell people what they believe. You rejoice in the truth. I would like be at my house and looking out, and I would see there would be two like Jehovah Witnesses walking up the street, and I would look out and I would say to my family, "Here come the Jehovah Witnesses," and they would run to the back bedroom and close the door. They knew I would open the door. "Hey, come in. Can we talk to you about Jesus?" "Yes, please, let's do that, please." And then we would rejoice in Jesus, and then they would finally give me a bunch of pamphlets and all that fun stuff, and then they'd go, and then my family would open the door and say, "Are they gone?" This is a Christian family. I'm in a Christian family. And they're in the back bedroom because the Jehovah's are coming. And so that's what I mean by Jesus just wants us to be ultimately so trusting that we can be open-minded to enjoy every holy encounter, embrace every holy encounter, and not get into reciprocity, and not get into ownership and lack and all those protective, kind of survival of the body mode. That's what we've been accustomed to. That's like our baseline, our default program has been ego. But God doesn't really know about reciprocity or this idea of lack. Miracles are so abundant, and they're for our mind to feel the abundance of the present moment. And then we become really trusting the more we go into the present moment. Because really, what is there to fear? If you start to realize the past is gone, it actually never happened, and the future is not, then what is there to fear? I always tell people, really honestly, if we look at the present moment, we don't really have any problems in this moment. Problems are always remembered or anticipated. You see how, and the guidance is teaching us to have reverse amnesia. Okay, oops, we forgot God. Now let's reverse it. Let's forget the ego and remember God. How's that for turning the tables on the ego? Reverse amnesia. I'm going to forget the ego so perfectly that I just experience the glee and joy of everyone and everything in this moment, and let go of whatever I thought was there before. Maybe I was in the driver's seat. Time to shift over, get out, and go on a ride with Jesus where everything is for miracle. Every day, he says, should be devoted to miracles. That's a real good teaching, because if we really do devote every day to miracles, then literally we will use time in alignment with the miracles. Just the symbols being used by the Holy Spirit. Like that song, two songs we listened to from Greg. That's a good use of symbols. It's a good use of music. But it's not personal. It's not designed for us to hold on to pride. It's not designed for us to hold on to an idea of personal power or personal control. It's more designed to start to realize that we have no control over the world that we made. That through the ego seemed to come a world, but we can't control it. That's the serenity prayer. What can I control? What can't I control? And the wisdom to know the difference. Course in Miracles is just a big version of the serenity prayer. If you practice the serenity prayer really consistently and often, then that takes you into a state of grace, because you're not going to be trying to change people, fix people, change circumstances. I know with Kirsten and I, we've done so many travels, and there's so many, when you're traveling and meeting people, there's so many opportunities to stay in a graceful, giving state of mind, without expecting things to be a certain way. That's the key for us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I felt later on, at the time it didn't feel really good, but later on I looked back on how I started off this journey. And I started off with a head injury and brain damage, and I couldn't function the way, like my self-concept, my memory, my personality self couldn't function the way it had in the past. Later on, I was like, oh wow, I was given a head start in a way. Because when I started reading the Course, I couldn't remember what I'd just read. I'd read a paragraph and I'd be like, oh, do I have to go back and read that again? And so I asked Jesus about it, and I said, is this a problem? Because I realized that usually what my mind was doing was not absorbing and receiving for myself, for my soul, for my mind, for love. My mind was usually engaged in a different agenda. There was an educator there, so that everything I read was to educate someone else about, or it was for my future understanding. It was for something else. And then as I was reading the Course, Jesus said, oh, this is perfect. I don't want you to read for any reason at all. I want you to receive connection with me through every sentence that you read. That's the only purpose. And it was like, what? I don't have to remember. I don't have to recall. I don't have to use this for something. I don't have to understand. It was like, no, this is from my love for you. That's it. So much of this journey is about gentleness. Gentleness. Do I feel the love in the moment, or any of the characteristics of a teacher of God? If that's my true identity, it is trusting, it is joy, it is gentle, it is present through integrity. Do I feel any of that? Can I feel that purpose in what I'm doing? Or does it feel like efforting, like I'm doing it for another reason? I'm responsible for something else other than just accepting what is for me to accept in this moment. The love, presence, connection. I remember when we went to Colombia and there was a Course in Miracles group there with the women studying it, and they were so passionate and so excited about it, and they were getting into a lot of kind of intellectual questions. And then they got very concerned about a man who worked on the property. And they were like, well, it's okay for us because we can study A Course in Miracles. We have the answer. But he's illiterate. How is he going to come to the kingdom of heaven? How is he going to undo the ego when he can't even study A Course in Miracles? Like, they got very concerned about him.
A coffee ranch or a horse ranch or something, and this was a hired hand who worked with in the fields, who was illiterate and had never left the farm, never left the ranch, never been to a city yet.
Yeah.
And now the course group, all the ladies were trying to figure out, should we try to invite him in and share these ideas with him?
Yeah. He just went into the very small local town once a month. You know, that was all that was as far as he went off the farm. And David was saying, well, how is his state of mind? You know? Oh, well, he's very happy. He just says thank you all day long. He says, when it rains, he says thank you. When the sun shines, he says thank you. When he's supported, he's just in this kind of state of gratitude. And David was saying, keep the book away from him. This book is to support those who need a lot of intellectual unwinding. You know, you just look at how many pages, the vernacular, you know, Shakespearean prose, psychology. It's to help unwind the mind that really needs unwinding in this way. So yeah, very, very fun moment. Keep the book away from him. He's just praising God all day long. And how simple that is. Like how simple that is.
Yeah, I had a meeting with a woman who had practiced A Course in Miracles in Mexico, in Curso de Milagros, and she lived in a small town that she said was what the world would call an extremely violent small town with, different groups that they would behead people in this town. So she and her children watched beheadings, and she's practicing A Course in Miracles, and she raised her children, just her and her children, working with them and her husband on A Course in Miracles, to shift the perception and to come to true perception and follow and come back to the true meaning inside. Even you talk about traumatic and trauma, and so now her children are all raised and have successful careers in the United States. And so I met with her at a restaurant in Mexico, and she was just bubbling and sharing all the miracles and miracles and miracles. And she had separated from her husband and moved to, I think, San Miguel. And then she was out one time. Her entire house burned to the ground. Just black ashes, completely burned to the ground. When she got back, she came to the black ashes. Everything was black ashes, and there was a tiny little photo of Jesus there, untouched, in the black ashes that she adored. She went and just picked Jesus up out of the ashes. It's like, well, this is apparently what I need here. And then friends called and said, you need to get the insurance money. Off she was on her next adventure. She lives down kind of near our community in Lake Chapala, Yehotepec now. But she was practicing and teaching her children and living the Course. And then when she got older, she would go to course groups. She listened to a lot of audios from me and watched a lot of videos and everything. And she'd go to course groups, and she'd say, I feel kind of out of place in the course group. They're like fighting over sentences and bantering and what's this mean and what's that mean. She said, I feel kind of out of sorts being at course meetings, and her grown children are like, Mom, what are you doing? Why are you going to course meetings? You've got such a good connection with Jesus. What's the point? I mean, what are you looking for? Or she was like, maybe I should check this out and follow this teacher or try out this teacher. And they were like, you don't need a teacher. You're like, you raised us in the environment, taught us, raised us with faith and trust and connection with Jesus. Why are you looking for a teacher? And she'd be, oh, okay. So now the ones that she taught were teaching her, coming back, reflections. No, you don't need that. You don't need that. You got a devoted life. You're following. You go where your joy is. Don't try to fit it into some kind of a Course in Miracles framework. Go to God. Go for that. And then, I got to meet her daughter too. She was all effervescent and loving and walks around, jogs, listens to audios of mine on the earphones, and they're just, everybody's tuning in, doing the devotional pathway that they really feel in their heart. And her kids are just soaring along with it too. And that's just another example about how we just need to go with what we really strongly intuitively feel and not look outside for answers. Or even certain learning aids will fall away. Good. They're meant to fall away. We're not meant to become dependent on people, places, things. We're meant to be in the moment, carried by God. That's it. So it just was very dear for me when I was just listening to all. And the daughter was telling me all the miracles, and then the mother, and And we were just, Urpi was there. We were all listening, having this beautiful holy encounter, but it's all based on faith and trust. And seeing that there aren't any real extreme circumstances. It's all designed just for us to tune into our intuitive presence. Yeah.